Hey everyone, I'm here with Robbie from Immutable. Super excited to have you on the channel, Robbie. Welcome.
Thanks, Ross. It's really good to be here.
I think we should dive straight in. I'm really excited to unearth some of the stuff that's been going on with Immutable and Immutable X since your launch. It's been a crazy couple of months. Just to set the scene, could you just explain to everyone your background and then the problem that you're solving, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, my background is I got into crypto quite a while ago now, actually, in 2014 into Bitcoin, but I was really just playing around. And when I saw Ethereum come out, that's when I fell in love. I really became quite obsessed with what you could do on it. Ever since literally the first smart contract app I used on Ethereum was like a gambling app. It was flip a coin or something. I don't even know if it was Etherall back then, but it was literally you run a smart contract and you either double your money or you lose it. And in that moment, I knew that this would be the future of everything. Like the entire world was going to run on this stuff. And a recommendation, if you haven't read the book Accelerando, give it a read because that crystallizes why this is going to be the future of everything. And you'll literally have smart contracts running all logic in the world. It was kind of obvious. And although there's been lots of twists and turns to that, I think that eventually, like, we've really seen that thesis start to bear out even this year. So that's been really exciting. But I wasn't actually building in the space until 2017, 2018, when we built Etherbots, which was the first ever fully on-chain multiplayer game. And we built that because we saw NFTs come out with CryptoPunks. And we said, well, this is going to be absolutely huge. You're taking the fundamental value of crypto, which is censorship resistant, hard capped, decentralized money supply that people can self-custodially own. And you're saying, well, let's translate it from just fungible assets to non-fungible assets, to literally everything. And obviously the place that's going to take off first is in the context of gaming, because gamers already spend an absurd amount of money, $100 billion a year, on video game items that they cannot sell after they buy them again. These people understand the value in digital items, and they can't get any of it. So by providing them with a better option, and by providing them with a sort of NFT-based solution, we thought we could form essentially the Trojan horse for distribution of the blockchain through frictionless mainstream gaming applications. Now, obviously, this Trojan horse has been a little slow. It's taken a few years to barge through the gates of Troy or whatever city that the horse went into. But we are now seeing that first start to happen this year. Major games companies start to look at NFTs, major art companies, hell, major marketplaces. I think we saw eBay announce that they're looking at NFTs. For someone who's been literally building them for 4 years, it's a little surreal. But that's my background. And the other thing is my background isn't actually necessarily in gaming. I'm a technology entrepreneur. I built many technology companies with my brother and my co-founder. And ultimately, what I'm looking to do is to create the scaling protocol for any NFT. We see gaming as the first excellent use case, but also that's the hardest use case to solve for. If you solve for that, you solve for art marketplaces, you solve for financial applications, you solve for quite literally the whole topology. So that's a bit of my background. Yeah.
And what is Immutable X? What does it do in a nutshell? And how did you come up with that sort of idea? What's the friction point that you're solving there? What's the problem that you're solving?
Yeah. So Immutable X is Ethereum's first layer 2 scaling solution for NFTs. So we allow you to trade or create NFTs as a business or a consumer completely for free using our APIs. And those APIs are completely unopinionated. So we're trying to be the protocol that powers people to build applications. Ultimately, everything we build has to help other people build successful businesses. We really don't care about who comes to our marketplace at all, as our first kind of principle. But ultimately, what we're building with Immutable X, we didn't know we'd start out with Starkware. We built, back in day one when we built the company, we always knew we wanted to build a scaling solution, but we didn't know how that would actually emerge. We didn't know whether that would be through state channels, which our CTO tried to make for 3 months before realizing that they would really be a dead end for quite a while. We didn't know whether that would be through, some kind of plasma variant. We didn't even know if that would come through advanced forms of side chains or different blockchains. But philosophically, we knew we ultimately had to make a decision based on 2 critical factors that we couldn't compromise on. The first was network effects. You just can't get around it. It doesn't even matter if Ethereum is the best blockchain, just like it doesn't even matter if Bitcoin is the most sound form of fungible money. The only thing that matters is that people care about it and people are building toward it. And that's why the statistic that shows that even as Ethereum went into its bear market, developers increased year on year is undeniable. It shows that you cannot compete ultimately with the soul of an open source development ecosystem, as Vitalik puts it. And so we wanted to use a system that everyone else wanted to use. We didn't want to compete with that because that's very, very silly when you're talking about infrastructure that is completely reliant on network effects. But second of all, we didn't want to compromise on security. And this is critical to us because right now, I think people are putting their money into solutions and NFTs into solutions that are going to have a very, very bad day sometime in the next year that they are building a massive honeypot of. And it's going to end in not only tears, but the massive destruction of the value of every NFT which lives in that protocol. And I think it's pretty clear. You're not seeing, Metakavan put a $69 billion Beeple on a sidechain. Like, they're just not going to do it. Whereas you will absolutely see that happening on Ethereum. And so the critical thing to us is the protocol we built had to be able to support applications from someone putting $100 million NFT on it to a multi-billion-dollar company running, tens of billions of dollars of volume on this and doing so securely without any fears. And so those are kind of the two principles. And that's what led us ultimately to, similar to you guys, a zero knowledge proof-based solution with StarkX.
That's so interesting to hear you talk about some of the things that we were discussing as well as a DeversiFi team, last year. We also dabbled with quite a few different scaling solutions before we landed on Starkware. So we actually built our own in-house scaling technology using state channels. And then I think we realized quite quickly that we were doing a lot of jumping through loops and all sorts of gymnastics just to kind of get 400 concurrent traders connected to the exchange, which obviously just doesn't scale. There was cascading liquidation problems. There's liveness assumptions, and it just didn't go anywhere. And for us, it was kind of a no-brainer because the Starkware system with zero knowledge proofs is just exactly what you said. It's scalable. You inherit the security of the underlying Ethereum blockchain, which for us was just a complete no-brainer as well. I just don't understand all these side chains that are popping up. Yep, great for now, but what happens in 2 years' time if there's another bear market and all these chains collapse 99% in value? Do you really want to be holding a Beeple on one of those chains? I don't think so. And what I think is really cool about you guys is you're tackling an end of the market, which is really the only thing that's giving these other chains a room to breathe, right? Because if you're a $69 million spender on an Ethereum on an NFT, you don't mind spending $80 on gas or $100 on gas. But if you're an indie games designer and you're targeting 100,000 collectors, then that becomes a huge friction point. Is that 100%. Really where you see your platform targeting, or are you for everyone, or is there a specific niche, or is it everyone?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we are built for very high frequency use cases, but the point is you have to be secure at all levels, because it doesn't matter whether the market cap of items is distributed across 10,000 items worth $100 each, or one item worth, $1 million each. Either way, you have to be able to provide security for that scaling solution. And so we can just as easily allow someone to very securely store a Beeple, say in a ZK rollup vault or a ZK Validium vault, and we can also do the same thing for massive scale. I think that's kind of like the first thing you can't ever go past is security. Otherwise, there is literally 0 point to any of what we are building. If
Amazing.
It can't be secure.
Amazing. Can you talk a little bit about the sort of the launch? It's only been a couple of months. It feels like a lifetime in crypto, but
I think it's only been 1 month.
Has it only been 1
since
month?
We went live. Yeah. So
I mean, 10 years in 1 month. So what? Can you talk a bit about the launch?
I feel like we've packed 10 years of progress into 6 months of this year. It's been insane. It was really far more successful than we thought, which was awesome. So we were really just de-risking and testing the protocol before we went live with partners. And I think in the first 24 hours, we had more Ethereum NFT to NFT trades that hadn't occurred in the entire previous week on layer one. And the most exciting stat to me was that the average NFT value was only $25. No $25 trades are occurring on Ethereum layer one right now. So that to me was very, very exciting, that we are literally unlocking a brand new economy. And
that's incredible, because it means that all these use cases that previously just couldn't be launched are now actually live. They're not just proof of concept, they're actually on an Ethereum layer 2, inheriting the security of Ethereum, tradable for cents on your platform. And that's the Gods Unchained sort of use case. That's who you launched with, right?
Yeah, literally just I think only half the cards in Gods Unchained right now. And roughly in I think a few weeks, we're going to have kind of everyone going live.
Amazing. And when you say everyone, lots more use cases, lots more products, lots more.
Yeah, we have a ton of businesses that we've been talking to for a few months now that will all be kind of going live.
Excellent. This is something that I really want to dive into a bit more. I've got tons of technology questions, obviously, as a fellow founder, but I think maybe it's probably more interesting for people if we talk a little bit about your view on the space before we dive into any other technical questions. Your view. How far away do you think we are from a major game studio building or launching on, an Ethereum or a blockchain based NFT solution?
It depends on what you call by major, but I mean, every single multi-billion-dollar game studio right now has a team actively dedicated at finding out what their blockchain strategy is. Every single one of them. I think sooner rather than later, they're obviously going to make their entrance in the right way. And we are obviously here to make sure that they come to Ethereum.
And do you think something that I've thought about a little bit is, do these guys see Ethereum as a competitor? Do they think that NFTs on Ethereum is bad for their business, or do they think that they're actually something that could unlock some potential? If people start paying for things with Ethereum and trading, isn't that going to cause issues for their business model?
So NFTs in general, they may view as competing to their business model, but I don't think they view Ethereum as competing to their business model. Some of them will definitely go down the closed garden approach. Lots of big businesses are going to say, look, we have to be able to control every aspect of the experience. They'll run their own blockchain with centralized operators. That's fine. That's their business use case. But ultimately, a lot of them will also say, what's important to us is that these NFTs are around in 2 decades, that they're open, that they're interoperable, that there is an ecosystem where anyone can generate economies built off the secure properties that we're essentially proposing with the economy. And I think it's a brand new business model. I think those businesses are the ones who are going to do the best, because they're, we've often seen people who kind of half embrace new ways to technology paradigms, especially big corporates. It's often the people who fully go with it that reap the biggest benefits, because they discover a new business model paradigm. In the same way that, some of the most crypto native companies, even though they seem to have business models that seem bizarre to older companies, are actually they're achieving levels of distribution that are just completely unprecedented, or they're getting people in the community to build kind of applications and use cases that you would never even see in the real world. So I think that's the really exciting component.
It's so exciting. I always wondered whether it was going to be a couple of small indie studios that fully embrace the technology and then they grow to become, the next Blizzard or something, or whether it's going to be one of the major companies who has a dabble, and before you know it, the floodgates are open and everyone else has to follow on quickly. Otherwise, they're going to risk being left behind by everyone who's demanding this from their games. So it's super exciting to hear. So you reckon it's going to happen sooner rather than later?
Yes, I have revised my estimates. So I think December last year, or November last year, before this craze, I would have said, look, you're 2-3 years away. And that timeline's been moved forward effectively 2 years. They still have to do the work of what is their entrance strategy, but they're now, I think, a few of them are very firmly committed to the idea that NFTs are going to be the future, and they're building real exploratory use cases.
Amazing. And I'm sorry, just to dive into this a little bit more, because I think it's super interesting for the audience to hear. When you're speaking to some of these, you're doing obviously a lot of education in the space. What's their main pushback? What are they really struggling with? Is it Is it something as lofty as carbon and energy use? Is it just a pure integration? Is it the legal security issue? What is it, or is it everything?
Yeah, there's a few. So one is everyone wants to use Ethereum. Everyone agrees. Everyone agrees that
Epic.
Alternative blockchains are effectively crap in that they don't have any network effect.
Is that because they don't want to be backing like a private company effectively? They don't want to be backing something that they see as like a VC backed competitor almost, or is it actually partially because it's okay?
It's also partially that 2 million smart contracts were registered on Ethereum last month. Flow had 50. Flow has one application with more than 15 users, and that's NBA Top Shots. Ethereum has thousands. And at the end of the day, it's like, what are you going to bet on? Are you going to bet on the internet, or are you going to bet on Microsoft Services Network? We've seen how history tells that tale, and so they're keen on that. But there's a problem, which is Ethereum's user experience sucks for NFTs, and it has terribly gas fees.
Yeah,
and that's a real problem. But that's what we're here to solve, and many people are going to solve this problem. But the key is you need someone that is going to be able to provide a solution now so that Ethereum wins, rather than every other blockchain which can do it far faster, far cheaper, far easier, because to them user experience is just turning down the decentralization knob to zero. And so we need someone bringing that to Ethereum in the same way you guys are for DeFi.
Amazing. So the main sort of pushback they've had is just general education. It's not really anything specific, or?
Well, of course, you have to get comfortable with the NFT thesis. So that's a much broader use case, which is absolutely, this is a brand new business model. It's terrifying. I think we're not going to see, a $10 billion games company suddenly switch all over their economies to NFTs. These are big old institutions, but I can say they're moving much faster and much more nimbler than I've seen. Many of them are putting Bitcoin in their treasuries. So the world is waking up much faster. There's a bit of logistics there, but they're going to get there.
I didn't even think about that angle. We're kind of comfortable now, even though it's only been 4 or 5 months since Tesla put Bitcoin on their balance sheet as a store of value, diversification, and inflation hedge. But actually, I wonder whether the equivalent in Ethereum, just on what you just said, is going to be gaming companies putting Ethereum onto their balance sheet as a because they're going to need a lot of this stuff to run the
this is the thing. And honestly, Ethereum is now getting to the point where it's valuable enough to do that. I mean, Bitcoin for a while, institutions couldn't buy because the market wasn't big enough. Like when you talk about the really big players, right, who when they enter a market, they're taking positions of $10 billion. You literally couldn't take a $10 billion position in Bitcoin 3 years ago. You would just destroy the market, and now you can. And so suddenly you see this bizarre effect where the higher the price goes, you actually get more institutional demand. And you get this virtuous cycle where the higher it goes, because it's because it's effectively a form of network adoption, the increased probability that it becomes a form of future money. And so the higher they have to assign a probability to having a hedging strategy, which includes it. And so this is why we're seeing this exponential adoption across institutions at Bitcoin and other hard cap monies on their treasuries.
Amazing. I think we'll probably be having this chat in a year's time, and you'll have commented about how you sold Ethereum at $20,000 to Sony.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Well, we wouldn't sell it. So
yeah, that's the right answer. That was the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. Look, I haven't sold my Ethereum since when I sold it in the DAO hack of 2016. I learned my lesson then, and I've been holding it ever since.
Epic. Good to hear. One of the things that as DeversiFi as a company that's building on Starkware for our use case, which is the trading of physical assets and giving traders opportunity to participate in DeFi without the high gas fees and holding all the security, etc. Something that we've really been quite interested in is actually decentralization as a concept sometimes doesn't excite people enough. People actually are more interested in what they can actually do on your platform, instead of security.
100%.
It's actually what they can unlock by using your platform compared to what they can do on chain. So is there anything that So for us, for example, it's very easy. You can come onto our platform, you can trade without paying gas, so you're saving a lot of money. You can access DeFi protocols directly from the layer 2, so you're not sacrificing 3 months of yield just to get into a position. What can people do on Immutable X that they can't do on layer 1, and what do you unlock with your platform?
Look, the first thing I'll say is regarding the sexiness of security is I bet a lot of the people who use Mt. Gox didn't think that the security protocols was the most exciting thing either. So it's important, it's not important until it is. And a lot of these big institutions know that. But second of all, absolutely. Like you have to make an amazing application. That's why we're trying to do this for Ethereum, so that the winning network effects for NFTs doesn't become some, poorly implemented new consensus mechanism, which is going to blow up in people's faces in a few years and set back the NFT industry by a decade. It's very important that this is done the right way to me. And if a new decentralized blockchain comes out which is truly at its core decentralized in the same way Ethereum is, I'll sing their praises too. But you're totally right. You've got to have amazing functionality, which is kind of what we're trying to build on top of StarkX, right? So the thing I'm most excited about is metadata-based orders. So right now, NFTs by design are completely unique, which is fantastic a lot of the time. It means you can have this beautiful thing called provenance, which means if you have, I was even thinking about cool use cases of this. You can take the NFT in Uniswap that Mark Cuban provided liquidity in. There's your provenance. So it really can be applied across everything, or whether it's like a gaming NFT and you have an influencer creating this brand new revenue stream across the fact that they use that. That's massive. That is the thing that people care about the most. The problem with, and many scalability solutions compromise on this. So ERC 1155 compromises the way that you need provenance. And that wasn't a compromise that we were happy to make. So what we said instead was, well, it's clear that people want to be able to trade some of the time purely on unique NFTs, but a lot of the time they just want to trade about the stuff they care about. And I think a best example of this is look at the UX of Nifty Gateway, which is great. And they have these things called open orders where people can just buy any edition of an asset. And you have this order book that moves for everyone which satisfies that characteristic, irrespective of whether they're kind of ID number 100 or number 1. And people can choose whether to list it. They can choose whether to make their asset fungible. Maybe they think the number 1 is more valuable. It probably is. And so they would refuse to make that, to put that in the open orders. They put that at a very high price. But what we actually allow is people to do that in a decentralized way. So the reason it works on Nifty Gateway is Gemini runs on a centralized backend. We actually allow people to create order books based on the zero-knowledge proofs themselves. So you can create and list your item, which satisfies any characteristic. The example I use is imagine you have a diamond card from Gods Unchained, and there's 20,000 diamond cards, and the lowest price diamond card is $100. The highest one's, probably a few $100,000 because it's some unique asset. People can choose whether they want to list their asset as a diamond card simply in that fungible marketplace, or whether they simply want to trade it as a unique asset. And that is 0 to 1 liquidity, because it means that NFTs can at once be fully unique and have full provenance, but also be traded at any level of fungibility that the owners of those NFTs care about, which in gaming context, which in many contexts is what people would care about. Even in, say, financial terms, imagine you're trading term deposits or some insurance contract. Suddenly you can trade on characteristics such as the yield or the risk levels, rather than just having this entire one-for-one fragmented order book.
That's so interesting. And there's so many applications for this. So you're essentially giving liquidity to an asset class that is either 0 or 1 in liquidity, which is incredible, because this unlocks so many use cases. Just thinking about the most boring one I can think of just from our perspective is, withdrawals from the layer 2, for example. You can now, front or provide liquidity for fast withdrawals from your layer 2 back on chain. You don't need to wait for every batch or anything like that. You can actually just allow people to withdraw, because it doesn't matter if they've got one NFT numbered number 1 or the NFT numbered 1,000. As long as it's got the same metadata, then that could be good enough. Or equally, maybe it's not. Maybe there's pools within pools. That's
interesting.
Awesome.
I don't think we figured out the fast withdrawals yet, because I think that would require a different set of permissions. But that is a very interesting use case. I'll definitely chat to the team about that.
And what is this something that you yourself came up with, this trading based on metadata, or is it something that you've talked to?
It's part of the reason
of
the benefits of Gods Unchained, right? So like by building with this customer in mind, you realize what the use case is. And the reality is Gods Unchained has, I think, more NFTs than every other Ethereum game put together. We have 13 million. And so we had to deal with scale from the very beginning. And what we realized is there's 13 million NFTs, which means there's 13 million order books, and the vast majority of them never receive a bid on ask. Because you only get the ones that are traded, that are exciting, and they represent the vast majority of volume. And that's a problem. So really what you want is there's probably only 1,100 card types. So you actually want 14 million over 1,100 instances of, you really just want 1,100 order books, plus the ones that people want to trade uniquely. And that reduces the order book sample size to say 3,000 from 14 million. And I can guarantee if you funnel liquidity through 3,000 markets rather than 14 million, you are getting a ton more price discovery and liquidity. And you can apply that to any context. So it is really just because we had to solve a need, we kind of realized what had to be built to create a good experience for NFTs.
This is amazing as well, because it means that you can unlock so many other use cases based on this NFT class. So for example, you can allow people to borrow against their NFTs, for example, because all of a sudden there's now a liquid order book that liquidators can now use, and they can price things off. So you're not just unlocking use cases based on the actual cards themselves or the NFTs themselves, but also allowing people to suddenly the NFTs that you were talking about are becoming a valuable piece of financial architecture as well.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that is the exciting thing.
Super cool. What else is on the roadmap for you guys? So what's the focus now? So the launch has been crazy, wildly successful. Metadata order-based trading is coming. What else is on the roadmap, and what excites you the most?
We have quite a bit, and obviously full EVM compatibility is on the roadmap as well. But I think we're trying to make sure we have the right user experience for mass scaling and minting first. One of the things I'm really excited about is completely permissionless integration. So at the moment, it's us working with partners and prioritizing them. We'd like to get really soon, within 1 to 2 months, to a point where you can just kind of spin up a permissionless contract with us and just go to the races. But the most exciting thing is, partners like Mintable, who are using Immutable X by default, or OpenSea, if you just create an NFT through them, you suddenly have access to Immutable X. So like my favorite thing is that the use cases of our businesses building on Immutable X are far more exciting than anything we could build ourselves.
Yeah. Amazing. So open and permissionless, anybody can mint, even if they're not on one of the partner platforms, which then just means that you're really becoming this protocol platform for anybody to mint anywhere. And why wouldn't you? You save money by trading, minting is free. You can do meta-based orders, and you can build anything you want on top of it. That's pretty awesome. Wow.
Yeah. We're very excited.
That's awesome. And where can people find out more about you guys? Where can they find you? What's the best channel to get involved if you're a developer or a budding artist who wants to build on Immutable X?
Absolutely. Look, developer, come to immutable.com. We're super busy right now, but we'll try and accommodate you as fast as possible. And this is why we're building permissionlessness at our core, because we can't individually talk to 600 companies, which are currently the people in our backlog, but we can do a permissionless integration. So that's the best way. And just, if you want to talk to us, come chat on our Twitter, or come apply to a job, because we're hiring like crazy. So if you want to work remotely or come live in Australia, we can support both.
Amazing. Robbie, it's been absolutely awesome catching up with you. Got a question.
We are raised, actually. we definitely are. So please apply away.
Excellent.
Really appreciate.
We've got a
10K referral fee.
Excellent. Thank you very much for coming on. I know you're one of the busiest men in the space. It's awesome to catch up with a fellow Starkware builder who's building the next generation of protocols on Ethereum on layer 2. Absolutely awesome. And it'd be great if we could have a catch up in 6 months after you've launched all this amazing cool stuff and you're the go-to place for NFT minting and trading.
Well, yeah, likewise for us. I'm very excited to see the future of DeversiFi. I've been following and supporting you guys for quite a while and trading on you. So I can't wait to see what you guys do.
Awesome. Robbie, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Ross.